when I first took a step out to doing something different, when I was in the 3rd grade, and there was a question of should we have Sunday movies? And I was grown up to think that Sunday was the Sabbath, and I didn't think we should have Sunday movies. So there was a debate going on, but I lost the debate, of course. But that's not unusual either. And then the next opportunity for reaching out was when my husband had a friend that was a doctor, and he was going to Ethiopia. And we became friends and visited back and forth, and I said to Dan Reynolds, I would love to go to Africa. And he said, all you have to do is want to, and you can go. So I waited until 1993, from 1960 until 93, I got to go.
When did you start coming to Mt Pisgah, and why?
So I started coming to Mt Pisgah when I was born with my family.
Started coming in 1989. Jan's grandmother, Dorothy Hart, was a member here, and we checked all kind of churches all over the place, and we didn't like it, you know. And the Jan said, "Why don't we go visit my Graham's church?" And I said, "Okay, you know, can't hurt, you know." So we got here, and there was a fit. Something, it was all family, you know. So it was nice, you know. So 25 years later, we're still here.
Well, like I say, it was the church my wife went to as a little girl, so it was just a no-brainer. As soon as we moved here, we just immediately started.
I was carried here as an infant.
Oh, in 2004 we started coming, and we found the people to be so friendly, and we enjoyed it. Pastor Kay was here.
Praise band, of course.
Yeah.
That was really a nice time, a good blended service.
Mm-hmm.
It was about 1990, and I was here. I was sort of searching for a church because I had moved into this area when I got married. And so I had been looking around, and came here several times before I actually did decide to join, but I really felt that God was calling me here.
Well, like I said, the women
That's right.
were so nice, and when I started coming Sunday morning, there were 3 what I called ambassadors to Mt Pisgah. They were Dewey Brazier and John Ross and Bunny, and they just made everyone, I noticed, feel so welcome that I nicknamed them the ambassadors.
Well, actually, I had visited some of the other churches, and I didn't seem to be part of that church whenever I walked in there. As a matter of fact, I was even in one of the other churches and joined even the women's group there, and I felt like I was an outsider. And it wasn't until I walked into the doors of the Mt Pisgah church that I found that I was really accepted with open arms. And everyone was so friendly, and it was really one of those things that I said, this is my church.
I was born and raised there. My whole family went to Mt Pisgah. We left for a few years and then came back when Kay Day was the pastor because we liked her. We loved the praise band, and the people have always been wonderful, and that really pulled us back.
I was raised Catholic and went to a Catholic church, and then I wasn't real happy with how the Catholic church was moving. So I started looking for another church, and I remembered how I always felt when I was in Mt Pisgah. Michael had invited us a couple times to hear Pure Praise play, and so that's why we started coming there.
Then the next thing that was exciting in our lives was in 1962, the General Assembly of PCUSA asked all churches to do whatever was possible to break down the barriers between the races. So what happened, we had ministers and elders meeting on Sunday to decide a plan. And the plan was, and it was approved by Pittsburgh Presbytery, that we would have an exchange program for 1 year. So my family was approved to go, and we had to say that our children were also in accord. They agreed. But Luann was only 3 years old, and she's willing to go wherever your old dad went.
Yeah.
So that all worked out, but it wasn't good for Mount Pisgah per se, because so many people left and we were in a bad financial situation.
What is your first memory of being at Mount Pisgah?
Well, my first memory of Mount Pisgah was when I came through the door and we were visiting the church, and Norman Turner gave me this big hug. I mean, I'd never been to the church before. I never did anything before in the church, and all of a sudden this lady's giving me a big hug. And I was like, okay, why is she doing this? Because I wasn't used to that. And I just thought we'd be digging ditches next week because she was being nice to me to do something next week. So.
My first memory of Mount Pisgah is probably from stories that my wife told me. She went here as a girl, Rita, along with her mom and grandma and quite a bit of the family. So just hearing stories about it. And Rita and I have been married for 31 years, and through that time visited Pittsburgh and actually came here then too.
The first memory that would be, because I've been here since I was born. So I would say the first memory is when my mom did music school, or whatever we would call it. We'd have Sunday school and then she did music. And I just remember, you know, since I was her daughter, that I would be a brat and not participate. And I would take, you know, my own little percussion instrument that we had in that big bag, and I would sit in the back of the church and just have a tantrum while she kept on teaching. And that's what I remember as the youngest. So that would have to be the first. It's just me being a little brat because my mom was the teacher.
Well, when I was about 7, I was in a play, an Easter play, with Betty Bosworth and Mrs. Bosworth, and a lot of other children.
All right. So
I can remember that vividly. That's about the first time. I guess I was, about 10 years old, I imagine.
that's awesome. All right.
And Bob was in a play.
I was 6 years old in a Christmas play. And that was a long time ago.
My first memory of being at Mount Pisgah is being in worship with my parents and my brother and my sister and all of my grandparents.
Well, my first memory of Mount Pisgah was when I first came here to visit. I was new to the area. I had just gotten married and moved to Crafton Heights, and I was trying out a number of churches. So I saw Mount Pisgah in the Green Tree Times and thought about coming here. And I just remember walking in and seeing the band.
Okay, I can fondly remember Tom Burgess coming up to us and being so friendly and like to give you a hug and he'd like to give you a piece of candy. So fond memory of Tom Burgess.
Oh, I have one. Nanette Thiel invited me to the craft class at the women's group. They were preparing items for the church bazaar, and she knew that I liked to do crafts, so I was coming every weeknight for crafts and got to know the women.
Well, my first memory was when I came here as a visitor, and I was here with my son, who at that time was about 15 months old, and I had him in worship with me. Bill Romer was preaching, and he was preaching this fire and brimstone sermon about heaven and hell, and he was really passionate. And just as he got to the climax of his sermon about, you know, the possibility of going to hell, Martin, for some reason, almost on cue, went, uh-oh. And I was mortified. Here I am, a visitor, Bill Romer just went right with it, and he said, "That's for sure." And I was still thinking, oh, these people must think, get that kid out of here. And the congregation just cracked up and laughed, which gave me such peace because I was feeling so bad. So that's one of my first memories.
You know, don't remember, you know, as a child, but coming with mom, dad, brother, sister. It was a family thing. Sunday mornings, the car left, you got in it, and you went to church. That's what you did.
My first memory was coming to the parking lot for a Halloween parade. And then I was going to start looking for a church at the same time. And when I was in the parking lot and realized this was a church, we came the following Sunday thinking I was going to start looking at churches because it was time for me to be in church. And once I came to Mt Pisgah, then I never tried another church. And that was 1981.
The first memories are finding the church being a friendly and social type of family.
My first memory was Tom Morey was the pastor when I was going through communicants class. And that was in the late 60s.
My first memory was when I joined Mt Pisgah. I just felt so loved and welcomed. I knew some people from Mt Pisgah before I even joined, and I just it was just a welcoming feeling, and I just loved it.
Mine was I was looking for a church after being excommunicated from the Catholic Church, so I went to church at Mt Pisgah when Maria became a member, and fell in love with the church, and that's how I ended up joining the church. So that's my first memory.
In, I don't know what year it was, but in the 80s there was a concern for hungry children. And the minister came to the deacons and said, is there someone who would be an advocate for hungry children? And no one responded. And I said, well, I guess that's something I should do. So I became an advocate, and I went to the Unitarian Church on the north side, and we would meet every couple of weeks deciding what we could do to get our congregation to cause our legislature to bring on breakfast for children in schools. So that worked out.
What is your favorite memory of Mt Pisgah?
I used to do the music for Vacation Bible School. I did it for about 2 or 3 years. And what I did was I dressed up as characters of what we were doing. Like one year I was Ranger Mike. Next year I was Spaceman Mike. I know. And to this day, Eric Thiel still calls me, hey Ranger Mike, how you doing? And he's only about 7 years old. Now he's in his 20s now, so.
Yeah, my favorite memory has to be Vacation Bible School as well. When I was in high school, I didn't get to participate in leading Vacation Bible School, and I always wanted to because I went to a school that was year-round. And so the last 2 years, this year, in 2015, I led music and I told the stories, and it was really a neat experience to see young children worshiping the Lord in their own way. Because I think if we all were so innocent, like children, the word would come to us easier and faster.
And that is the first time that I saw the communion plates that I made being used. I'm a woodworker and like to make things that are used, that are functional. And the fact that those are used in such a joyous and solemn thing, really, I like that a lot. My second memory would be just the other day, I was just talking to the pastor about it. Pastor Tom, Greg Virgin, Bob Stroop and I went to the Pirates game. And after that went to the Faith Night event. And talk about, as Pastor Tom's service today mentioned, talk about an example of what life should be like, what God's plan for life is. I mean, going to a baseball game with 4 Christian guys, and afterwards hearing from the players and the coaches how their faith has affected their baseball playing as well.
Yeah, I bet that would have been awesome.
My favorite memory is when we did youth group overnight. We'd have sleepovers and we'd stay up all night and do fun games, ping pong, whatever. And Mike Carlini was the best, your dad. And just being with like Casey Porter, Nikki Porter, Donnie, Buddy. You were there at times, Adam. Am I missing anyone? I don't know. It was just such a fun crew, and then we would hang out all night like we were best friends. And that was probably my favorite memories, when we would do youth group things together in the social.
Working for the youth when we had logos for around 7 years, and I did the dinners every Thursday for them, and it was a lot of fun, and I enjoyed it very much. Our wedding.
We were married 1948 by Reverend Patterson in this church.
Of having my daughter baptized here. I mean, probably one of the ones at the top of my list is being in the band. Not just because I enjoy singing, but it was just a very special group. And no matter whether we were singing in church or even just at practice, I felt the Spirit among us and coming through our music. We could be having a weeknight rehearsal, and before I came I could think, oh man, it's hot, or I'm tired, I haven't eaten dinner, do I really want to go? And then once I got here, it was like a worship. It was just about praising God and feeling His presence through what we were doing.
Yeah.
Well, one of the favorite memories is when Lori Porter, she used to go to our church in Sheridan, and she came to our house with cookies and welcome basket. And when we found out she was coming to Mt Pisgah, we were really excited.
I have a couple, and one is a child with all the other Sunday school kids, and there were lots of us, running the front lawn, picking up the buckeyes from the tree, sitting on the steps going up, and we all tried to break them open. And I don't think we threw them at anybody, but that was always kind of a favorite thing, the buckeyes, and still seeing them out there. My other one is sitting in the choir as an adult, and sitting on one side of the chancel with the ladies, because Lord forbid that the ladies and the men sit together in the choir, and looking across and seeing my father. And after every psalm, as he got older, he would give a thumbs up and he'd say, good. He thought he was whispering, but I think the whole congregation heard him. So that was one of my favorites.
Dennis making it down the aisle with the lit thing because he was an acolyte and he didn't catch the church on fire.
Oh gee, there's so many. Vacation Bible School. Just my conversations with Gertrude Long, but probably my favorite would be the Malawi Partnership and the people that I met in there. The missionaries that came in from Malawi and the missionaries here in Pittsburgh that go to Malawi.
My favorite memories were being the acceptance into the church as part of the family, and also being on session as a ruling elder, and being involved in many of the other things in the church, even the secretary of the session meetings.
Mine's joining the church when I finally felt the love and the family and the compassion at the church, and God accepted me back into His loving arms at Mt Pisgah. And of course, singing in pure praise. There was nothing that lit up my life more and gave me more fulfillment than singing the praises of God.
My favorite memory is pasta night. I loved getting together, having a good time, the cleanup afterwards. It was a lot of work, but it was also a lot of fun.
I remember in the early days, if you didn't get there a half hour early for Christmas and Easter services, you didn't get a seat. That's how things have changed at Mt Pisgah, but you know, I grew up there, so that has always been my church.
Then there was another opportunity for a volunteer, and that was when Head Start became into the view, especially for the north side. And they asked for volunteers to go to the family homes where the children were going to be in Head Start to get their approval for medicals. So again, I volunteered, and a woman from Wallace Memorial and I traveled the streets of the north side. Well, it wasn't very bad on Manchester, but when we went over to where Heinz plant is,
Okay.
it wasn't very good. And when we asked the police for directions, he said, you women are going to places that we wouldn't even go ourselves. But we weren't afraid.
Great.
And we got through it.
Yeah.
So that was my next venture.
Do you have a funny story that happened to you while you were at Mt Pisgah?
First memory is also my funny story. I remember this very vaguely, and I probably only remember it because of the stories that people tell me, but I kind of remember doing it as well. So I had these, I was really into stuffed animals when I was a kid, and I had these two monkeys. One was named Pongo and one was named Bongo, and they would always come to church with me. I think it was Pongo, yeah, he came to church. And while Bill Romer, he was the preacher at the time, was preaching, usually Bongo and Pongo would sit next to me, but this time I stuck Pongo on the rim of the pew in front of us, and yeah, that's pretty funny. Leslie Boone says that was the last time that she sat with the Carlinis because she was so embarrassed.
Well, the funny story was, we used to, after vacation Bible school, we would always go to Green Tree Pool. And they have a slide at this pool. And everyone would be there, having a good time and everything. Well, Bob Scott is about 6'5", maybe 6. He was a very big man, you know, very tall. So I said, all the Burkharts are there, and I said, Dad, what is your dad doing up there by the slide? And she says, I don't know. I'm like, well, he's going down the slide. She said, well, you better get over there because he can't swim, you know. I'm like, what? I said, why would he even get up there if he can't swim, you know? I said, he's 7 feet tall. All he can do is stand up and he's there, you know, it'll be fine, you know. She says, get over there and he's going to sink like a rock, you know. I said, okay. So me and Larry went over and waited for Bob to come down, and Bob came down with his hands up in the air like this and sunk to the bottom just like this. And we brought him back up. He was still like this with his eyes wide open. And, you know, he was happy for it. He said, oh, I feel like I was just baptized, you know. And it was a funny experience with me and Larry just shooting him out of the water.
Band practice has been a funny time. I was in Pure Praise for 10 years. I guess we were a band for 10 years. And we would practice about 2 times a week, Wednesdays or Tuesdays, Thursdays, whatever it was. And maybe not in particular have a funny memory, but the band, we would just always crack jokes with each other. And we just, you know, everyone's my second family, and like brothers and sisters, they pretty much were in the band, and we always were having a good time, howling at the stupidest things, making up words to songs, you know, Mike, you know, saying something weird and I'm busting out laughing while we're trying to practice a song, you know. So I would say I have too many to say, but always during band.
When I was liturgist one time, I read the wrong scripture, and I said, whoops, that was the wrong one, now I'm going to read the right one. Jack Harmon stood up and said, I didn't pay attention the first time, but I did the second time. And another time, I did the liturgist. I sat down on one of somebody had the offering plate on the seat facing the sanctuary. I sat on it and it just wouldn't quit spinning. It just made a horrible noise. Very embarrassing.
I don't have a funny story, but I can remember taking communion one Sunday with Dewey Brazier. And we stood out on the wing.
Thank you.
And he was telling us jokes. I can remember so.
The earliest funny story is sitting in the pew between my parents, biting my tongue as hard as I could to stop from giggling.
I mean, some of my funny memories are the different plays that have been here. You know, the way people are just, even adults are so willing to just dress up and play a character and have fun, all to share the message, you know, of Jesus.
Yeah.
But one of my funniest memories is we were on the outreach team, and I think it was Luann Jones and Pastor Linda Ruby. There were a couple of other people there that I'm not remembering at the time, but we were up at the Green Tree Farmers Market. And we had a table. We were given a table just for the 1 month to do our outreach. And so we had the bubble making things set up, and we had some free lemonade, and it was a beautiful sunny day, and we were there, I think, from like 4 to 6 or 7, something like that. And after about an hour, all of a sudden, without warning hardly, the sky clouded over, a terrible wind and storm hit, and I had my car parked right behind the booth because I had brought up, you know, some of the things to set up, and that wind just ripped that canopy completely off. It flew away. We all got soaked. And why it's a funny memory, but it's a good memory is because we just carried on. You know, Luann Jones went down to her house and brought us towels, and the sun came back out, and we just kind of carried on and went back to making bubbles.
Right.
And
that is
telling
great.
people about Mt Pisgah and VBS and all that, and offering free lemonade as if nothing had happened.
I had a funny story of, there was cleanup day, and Ed Porter, I think, had ordered a big dumpster to put a lot of stuff in, and it was piled real high, and it had to be leveled off so they could put a tarp on it. So Bob and Ed Porter up on top of the dumpster, looking like they were dumpster diving.
It's not a funny thing because it was kind of earth-shattering when on a Christmas Eve many years ago somebody broke into the church during the service. Well, I don't know that they broke in, but they came in, went behind the stained glass windows and stole 8 of our purses on a Christmas Eve, mine being one of them. It was devastating to all of us, but the really bad part, and it was not funny, but it's funny now, I had both set of keys to my car in my purse. And I had to have my car towed home on Christmas Eve, so I laugh about it now.
Oh my goodness.
So it's not funny, but it was, when hindsight, yeah, it's funny 20 years later.
It wasn't funny at the time. It was Susie Boone's funeral. I felt so bad for the family. The casket did not arrive in time, and we were all in the sanctuary waiting for Susie to arrive at her own funeral. So, you know, but after a while it was Susie. That was Susie. She was laid back and relaxed.
That's great.
Late for her own funeral.
It isn't really a funny story. It's usually just a story about some of the things that I forgot to do. Actually, what I did with the session, not the session, but the communion breads, I forgot one time to have enough communion bread there for everybody. And I can remember when Pastor Kay was here, she grabbed the loaf of bread and had them finish up giving the bread from the loaf to everybody. And then also, I forgot to put the drink, the juice into the pitcher for the minister to pour into the chalice.
Right.
But he was really great with faking it, by even doing actually doing all of the maneuvers of showing people that it was really pouring in there, but there was nothing coming out.
I have to just say it was practice on Wednesday night for Pure Praise. We just seemed like never to get anything done. We'd end up laughing and getting mad and laughing and wondering how this was all going to come together on Sunday.
Mine was anytime I ever did anything with Mt Pisgah, for Mt Pisgah, was always a fun time. I really don't have a particularly funny story. I just always enjoyed being with everybody and just having a fun time and, serving God.
And then, of course, when hunger awareness became a big thing for PCUSA, we had pennies for thoughtfulness. So I was the one, the deacons that counted the pennies, and that was a good thing. And then, of course, in 1993, I got to go to Malawi. And that was through the Peacemaking Committee. The Peacemaking Committee met with the Presbytery to see if there was any possibility for us to be a part of the partnership. So that was my next adventure.
That's
I
amazing.
was so pleased to be the one chosen.
What does Mt Pisgah mean to you?
I think I'm mostly family. It's no matter what happens, something goes wrong, so good and bad. They'll be there for you. You make a phone call, and if you need help, someone will be there. Helping you one way or another. Just pray for you, or just just a family type thing.
Mount Pisgah, it's kind of my foundation of Christianity. It's just where I was raised. So what it means to me, it means my second family.
What does it mean? It just means home, family, where we worship. It's just always been there, and we've always been here. It means
Faithfulness. Mount Pisgah means a lot to me. I've been a church attender and a Christian for a long time. I've been a Presbyterian all my life. But before I came to Mount Pisgah, I had gone through a difficult number of years. And I feel as though this has been the place where I've not only sort of come back to my faith fully, but also really grown in terms of my knowledge of the Bible, my relationship with God, and that was because of a number of things that happened here. The sermons of different pastors, some of the Sunday school series that we've had that I've really found helpful and interesting.
Yeah.
And the services, the music, a lot of different things about Mount Pisgah I feel like God put me here to help me grow in Him.
To me, it's family and just a happy family. And
It's a home away from home for us, Everybody here has the same beliefs that we do, and it makes it like a home.
I'm hearing a lot of people say family, and I like that. I like that response a lot because it is a family.
It means family, and it means an opportunity to do ministry, which I think this church is so good at, allowing people to try new things and supporting them in doing it.
Yeah.
Home,
family, stability, friendships, and togetherness. It's not the building, it's 6 people. It's my church family. I love my church family. It's where I enjoy worshiping, and it's a really big part of my life.
Oh, it's a loving, caring, praying family, and they're very supportive.
Mount Pisgah means family and love to me. Again, I always felt so welcomed and so loved. Honestly, I never knew God until I came to Mt Pisgah. Mt Pisgah, it was just a wonderful, wonderful feeling when God came into my life, and it was because of Mt Pisgah that happened to me.
My husband passed away in 1993, right before I went to Malawi, but I was assured by him that was what I should do. Well, then I was at Mt Pisgah for a year, and I thought, God's calling me to go someplace else because I needed to grow in my faith. And lo and behold, when I got to Carnegie, where I was living, it was very convenient, and I had not been invited. I just went in cold, and they had Presbyterian women, and at that time they were studying the year with the Bible. And so that's what brought me to realize that I could grow. And I was growing through Presbyterian women, through Bible study. And
Were you married at Mt Pisgah?
Yes, I was married at Mt Pisgah in 1990. On St. Patrick's Day. March 17th, St. Patrick's Day.
I was?
Yes.
Greg and I were married there in 1983, and Gary Collins was the pastor.
And then what happened in 2001, 2001, Kay Day, our new minister here at Mt Pisgah, asked me if she could interview me to be the secretary here. And I was a little reluctant about it, but she assured me that she really wanted me, and then I was supposed to go before personnel. And at that time, Mike Carlini was the personnel director, and
Really?
he never even got to me.
Oh my goodness.
I was approved without
That sounds like my
personnel.
father.
So I was here without approval.
Were you baptized at Mt Pisgah?
I was.
Oh yeah, a couple months after I was born in '93.
Alright. So
But I was baptized at a Hawthorne Avenue church, which is one of the sister churches of Mt Pisgah.
that is fascinating.
So that's part of the history.
I was baptized at Mt Pisgah. Bill Romer baptized me. I don't remember the year. It was probably 1995. All right. So, were you baptized at Mt Pisgah?
I was baptized in the old church, of course, in 1927. And that was a long time ago. And then all the other people in the family, I mean, from my generation on, were all baptized in this church.
That's awesome.
I was baptized here with my oldest daughter Lori in 1986. I was pregnant with Denise at the time, so all of us girls were there.
Amanda was baptized by Larry Trotner, and Alyssa was baptized by Bill Romer.
I was baptized in 1955. Don't have a clue who the minister was. I'm sure I've got her certificate in a box somewhere that says who it was. This was my family's church. My grandparents went here, and maybe great-grandparents, I have no idea. But this is where my home is. So it was just natural that here it is, and now I have a wonderful husband who comes along and is a pedigree. So God is good.
And I really appreciated working with Kay, and that was really special. So I was with her in 2001 when the World Trade Building was bombed. And then by that time, the stock market went down so bad.
Right.
And then I wasn't able to live in an apartment by myself. But I had to give up my car, and then thanks be to God for my family, and especially you, Ann. I'm living with it, and I'm grateful for that.
That's great.
Yeah. But if you'd like to know what I think about today is, especially what the sermon was today, if we only had one more year.
Yeah.
And so that really impressed me because I'm the one that's closest to that one more year. And I'll be very fortunate if I get another year. But every day I have to realize how powerful God is and what He can do when we come to Him. So I'm grateful for my faith. It started out in a little church over in 1830.
Who was the pastor when you started coming to Mount Pisgah?
His name was Bill Rowling.
Bill Romer.
Reverend Romer.
Reverend Schlettner.
Pastor Kay was the pastor at the time.
Well, been here since I was born.
Okay.
The pastor that I remember was Bill Rawlings, and after him Tom Morey, and that's when my memories really started of church, when I was, 5, 6, 7 years old.
Sure.
Yeah, not a lot of those memories. Carrie Collins.
Bill Romer.
Both of us.
Pastor K.
The pastor was Tom Morey. And whenever I joined the church, he said to me, "Why do you want to join the church?" And I says, "Because I'm a sinner." And I thought he was going to fall backwards. I guess he'd never had anybody say that to him before.
Right.
This is our granddaughter. We have her for the weekend. Say hi, Ella.
Hi. We hope that these questions help. And
we thank you for allowing us to be part of this. Yeah. We love all of you, and we miss all of you so much. And
continue to hold Mount Pisgah together.
Where do you see Mount Pisgah in the next 10 or 15 years?
I would like to see Mount Pisgah be really focused on families, very family-oriented. I like the idea of having the pastor preach a certain topic, and then everybody in the whole entire church throughout the week learn about it. So that means, say in Sunday school, you learn about the same topic that the pastor preached. And I feel like this way we'll be able to incorporate whole families into our church as well as individual people.
I see this as going as a mission-oriented church. I think we're going to focus on one thing and run with it, and that's what I see. In the next 10, 15 years, just going out and just running with the project that we need to do, and it's going to work.
And I really think it's going to be doing the same thing it was doing 185 years ago when it was in a log cabin here at this site. And that is being that place with a view. Being that place where people can get a view of what God's plan is. Yeah, I think it's been a great experience for us coming here, and look forward to continuing that.
That's a rough question because I'm not a predictor of the future. However, I hope that we can find our way to getting young people back, and hopefully in 10 years we can maybe have a new band of maybe different people and kind of just restart and have a new chapter of Mount Pisgah to keep strong.
I'm afraid without young families and children, we will probably merge.
Mm-hmm.
Although I'm praying that we get those families
Yes,
somehow.
of course. Yeah.
Well, a lot of times we thought it would go down, but it's still here, and I think it will be still here in another 100 years. What do you think?
Well, we used to have big crowds, and Then we went, we had some problems, but everybody thought we'd fail, and we came back a couple times. Right now, things are a little tough, but I think it'll pick up.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think about that a lot, and I pray about that regularly. I don't know myself. I think Mount Pisgah is at a point in time where there are a number of different directions that we could head, and I'm not sure which path we will take or which one God will lead us down. I would like, my vision for Mount Pisgah in 10 years is to be a vibrant church that really focuses on taking what we have in this church, the special bond, the spirit that we have in this church, the faith, the deep faith that we have in this church, and I'd love to see Mount Pisgah be like the early church, where we are taking what we have and all feel in here and really reaching out and taking it out, being the people of that first church who are excited about what we have learned and have in Jesus and want to share that with people beyond these walls that don't have that.
That's a hard one. We just think since it's been here 185 years that God still has a purpose for us, so we pray that we can grow and sustain ourselves.
Well, my thoughts is that we're still going to be at 31 Warriors Road. Standing here, maybe the walls will be a different color. Who knows what kind of hangings will be on the wall, but I think it'll still be here because there's still this core of folks that this is where they worship, this is where they go out and worship. This is the beginning for them. It's not the building, it's the people, but it's a vital part of Warriors Road, Green Tree, from the area. Yeah, it's a good place. My thoughts will still be here thriving.
Mount Pisgah will still be standing. God hasn't given up on us.
I think Mount Pisgah has always been a nucleus of spreading the gospel, even way back in the history where it is, I think, 7 sister churches spun off from Mount Pisgah. And for someone who has gone to Malawi, it has completely changed their lives, and they have gone out into the world. So I see Mount Pisgah as always being a nucleus, no matter how big the church gets or how small it is. It's always a nucleus to spread God's word.
Well, I think with the help of the Lord and all the people that are here, that we will continue on, because the fact is it takes teamwork to make things work.
I don't know, but God does. And I'm praying that we'll still be here, and I think we will be, because clearly He has blessed this church through many years, obviously. And even now, though our numbers are smaller, that has nothing to do with the effectiveness of the ministry that we do. So regardless of how many are here, we continue to thrive.
Book of Revelation, chapter 7, verses 16 and 17. Yes, sir. They shall hunger no more, neither shall they thirst anymore. Preach, preacher. For God shall wipe away, yes, sir, every tear from their eye. Yes, sir. Get ready for the revolution.